Hello and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast. I am your host, Fabrice Nye, and joining me here in the Murrieta studios is Dr. David Burns. Hi, David.
Hi, Fabrice.
Dr. David Burns has been a pioneer in the development of cognitive therapy, and he is the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 20 languages. He is an emeritus adjunct clinical professor of psychiatry at the Stanford University School of Medicine.
Welcome to episode 129 of the Feeling Good podcast. And we have a little role reversal here today because I'm going to be the host along with my co-host, Rhonda Barovsky, a clinical psychologist and certified TEAM-CBT therapist and trainer here in the Bay Area. And we're going to interview you, Fabrice.
Hi, David.
On mindfulness and meditation, which are extremely popular these days. So we thought
they are.
To bring it to life a little bit. I couldn't think of anyone better than you to explain these ancient and yet recently popular practices.
Well, there are lots of people much better equipped and with much more experience than me to discuss this. But I think that I can put them in the context of TEAM-CBT that in a way that would work well for our listeners.
Great. Now let's just start out with something simple because I must admit I don't know exactly, what mindfulness is or how it relates to meditation, or are there different ways of doing meditation. I had a friend when I was a medical student who was big into, I think, Kundalini meditation or something like that, but she eventually died meditating. It killed him. He was trying to have out-of-body experiences, and it was kind of tragic. Rob Christ, he was really cool. He was the founder of the Mid-Peninsula Free University, but he was doing very extreme things during his meditation. But tell us what is meditation? What is mindfulness? Why should we care about them? How could they help us? What's the history of them? Do they go back to the Buddha? Do they go back further? Just to turn us on a little bit.
Okay.
To it.
I'll give you in 2 minutes something that could take several books to describe. But meditation is a set of practices that goes way, way back, even before the Buddha. And the Buddha himself, before even he got enlightened, practiced a variety of practices, including meditation. But meditation and mindfulness are not the same thing. Meditation is the practice itself, where mindfulness, I would say, is more like the skill. I want to compare this to going to the gym to do some workouts. Meditation is the workout, and mindfulness is the skill that you gain from it. So you get stronger in your muscles in working out, and meditation gives you more abilities to focus and to observe your own thoughts and emotions. And yes, there are different kinds of meditation. Mindfulness is one of the kinds of meditation. There's others where you focus on a particular word called a mantra. Others you do visualization. But mindfulness is mostly about observing.
You were saying that one of them you observe your breath going in and out, and you're supposed to keep your mind on your breath, on your breathing. You can imagine it as a gray mist going in and out, and then your mind will wander. You say up to 20 times a minute, and then you just gently bring it back to observe your breathing. You don't fight the fact that your mind is wandering, but you notice, oh, my mind has wandered, and then you bring it back to your breathing again.
Yes, thank you for saying this. That's something that we discussed before our recording. Yes, you actually do not force anything. Whatever is occurring within your consciousness, you allow it to happen, to appear, and then to disappear. And the breath is one of the things that many meditation techniques focus on because it's always there. It's both something that's automatic and something that you can control a little bit. And so the breath is a point of focus that is often brought back to in the meditation when you lose track of what you are doing.
Rhonda, I'll kind of turn it over to you here for...
Well, that seems so interesting, Fabrice. And I've heard that mindfulness can increase our ability to regulate our emotions and decrease stress, decrease anxiety, help us manage our depression, focus our attention. How is that possible just by sitting still and focusing on our breath?
Right. And so it's the focusing part that is the key there. In focusing, you engage certain neural pathways that allow you to develop more attention to your experience. When I say experience, I mean what you perceive through your brain, the bodily sensation, the emotions, and the thoughts. All those are perceived. In fact, in Buddhism, they say that we have 6 senses, not 5. And the 6th one is thinking. So thinking is considered a sense in Buddhism as well. So everything that comes in through our senses, it can be observed. And if it can be observed, that means that the observer is different from that thing. So we're not our thoughts. When you develop that brain muscle, that gives you the ability to no longer get caught by your emotions. In particular, not to get caught by them for any long period of time. They can arise, and then you notice, oh, there's an emotion. I'm upset right now. And just watch it and let it fall away and notice what brought it about. It could be a thought. That's what it is most of the time.
Now, how would that work for me? Let's say I'm depressed and I'm having the thought, I'm a worthless human being. I'll be depressed forever. I'll be worthless forever. My family would be better off if I were dead. I think I'll kill myself. That's very common.
Yeah. And so in a situation like this where you have intense rumination about worthlessness and hopeless thoughts, what being more of an adept of mindfulness would give you would be an almost automatic stepping back from these thoughts. So you're not merged with it, with the thoughts. You know, when you have the thought, I am worthless, you don't automatically believe it. You go, oh, there's that thought. You know, like maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And you don't fuse with it, to use a term in ACT. You don't fuse with the thought, you observe it. And that gives you a lot more range and space for you to maybe put it down in writing and question them and so on.
Would it be possible that for some people might not experience benefit and become even more depressed or suicidal as a result of meditation, just to be getting completely immersed in their thoughts and not see how to let it go?
Yes.
And just dwell on it, become even more convinced.
Yeah, I mean, anything has some negative sides, and I think that if you are prone to ruminating, if you practice mindfulness and that leads you to essentially be in your train of thoughts rather than being an observer of them, it can lead you to feeling more depressed. I don't think it's a big danger, and if you can practice mindfulness with an experienced guide or teacher, they can help you get out of those loops and to a more positive spiral where you can notice there's a thought, let it come, let it go, and go back to your breath, go back to what is present in the moment. Here's another thing that mindfulness is good for. It allows you to focus on the present. So if you're saying to yourself, I should kill myself, it'll be better for my family, what you're focusing on is some hypothetical fantasy world that is somewhere in the future, i.e. does not really exist. Mindfulness brings you to the present. Now, what do I know for sure now? Well, I know for sure that I'm sitting on the couch, I'm feeling the weight of my clothes on me. I'm feeling my breath. I can even be feeling my sadness right now. But I don't even need to label it sadness. I just feel what it feels like. And there's a half-life to any emotion. And I can notice it's arising, it's peaking, and it's diminishing. So that if I can do this, then I don't fall prey to the rumination.
You know, my yoga teacher talks a lot about mindfulness, and he talks about mindfulness as being aware in the moment, accepting what's happening in the moment, and then making a choice. So it sounds like you're saying that too. If someone is feeling suicidal, they're aware of their thoughts and feelings, accepting them, and perhaps they could choose a certain path to take them down. Is that what you're saying? Or a choice to believe in them or not believe in them?
Yes, that is essentially our fundamental choice. That's true in CBT. That's true in mindfulness. When we notice a thought as like a phenomenon that arises within us, that comes and goes, and something that we don't have to attach to or believe, then we become a choice. I can say, okay, well, I have this thought. My family would be better off without me. I don't have to believe that right now. Let me see, what is my better choice in this moment? Okay, well, I'll choose not to believe it. Or I'll choose to believe something slightly different. So that's
See,
really...
I've just never had a patient who could choose not to believe that thought without using different powerful techniques that would allow them to let go of it. Or to put it differently, you might say that mindfulness meditation could be one. I use 101 techniques now in working with patients, and sometimes one technique works and sometimes another technique works. I always teach people, don't ever put your eggs in one basket, because what works for one person might not work and probably won't work for the next person, and you need a lot of different kinds of tools.
Yeah.
And so I kind of bristle a little bit, because that sounds like some of the things we did in the early days of cognitive therapy that weren't effective, like thought stoppage. You tell yourself stop. We taught people that in the early days of cognitive therapy, and I tried it dozens of times and never once did it help anybody. And or things like letting go, or counting your negative thoughts, and then letting go and getting into the into the present moment. I have no doubt that it's helpful for many people, because a lot of people are excited about it. So the proof of the pudding is in the eating, but I don't see it for everybody, and certainly for me, it just falls flat. It's nothing that appeals to me or interests me. So I guess I've got two questions here. One, is it just one technique among many, or is it some ultimate thing? And number two, what would be the difference in people who really take to it and love it and find it life transforming, and others who say, hey, this is nothing that appeals to me?
Well, that's a big question. So let me see if I can take that from the top. So you're talking about mindfulness falling flat compared to the techniques that you use with your patients. So,
or for me personally, because some of my
yeah.
patients might actually, think it's wonderful too. I don't promote it, but if they went to someone else, they might love it.
Well, many people actually enjoy, or at least appreciate you having the skill of mindfulness and practicing the mindfulness meditation. But for example, a lot of people enjoy practicing basketball. I could not care less. But let's say that some basketball coach comes to me and says, "Well, I can teach you how to shoot 3-point baskets." And I said, "Okay, well, let's do it." I think that it's not going to be working in less than several hour-long practice sessions, at least for me, I'm pretty sure. It's not an instantaneous improvement. If somebody shows up on the court and says, hey, I've got a much better technique, I got this catapult, and if you place the basketball in it in just this right angle, and you press this button, it'll go right into the basket. And I'll go, oh yeah, that works. Okay, thanks. I'll send the basketball coach away. This is a little bit what you're talking about. You're providing catapults for your patients when they could have the skills inherent in themselves to let go of their thoughts.
That's actually untrue, because we teach patients. I take offense at what you're saying, although I love your interview in general. But no, we're not doing it for the patient with any mechanical device. We're giving the patients the skill that they can do it on their own, and if not, you wouldn't get lasting results. It'd just be they'd come to your office and feel better and go out and feel worse, but that's not the way it is. So that's probably not the most convincing metaphor, but I know you're saying something really true and really, really important.
Okay, so let me explain what I mean by that. The catapult is your techniques. The catapult is the mood journal. The catapult is the decision-making form.
Or mindfulness meditation could be your catapult.
So mindfulness meditation is more like the workout. So if somebody, let's say, cannot lift 50 pounds, and you say, well, I have a technique for you, it's working out. Okay, well, let's do it. And you say, well, yes, but you have to go work out 3 days a week at the gym, and you have to follow.
Just like what we tell our patients, right? You got to do your psychotherapy homework and use the daily mood log and work out, practice the various techniques that you're learning to change and let go of these negative thoughts to crush.
Yeah, so there's homework. You have to sit for your meditation, hopefully on a daily basis, and practice it so that then you gain that muscle to be able to watch the thoughts and letting them go without getting attached to them. I hope that makes sense. So
well, you're making a lot of sense, and you're bringing these things to life in a really practical and understandable way. And what you're saying is that it gives you a capacity, kind of a brain muscle, so that when you're upset, rather than becoming hypnotized by what you're telling yourself and all of your emotions, you have the capacity to sit back and tell yourself this is just a thought, just like in the meditation. Then you bring yourself back to the present moment rather than getting totally absorbed in all of your negative thoughts and feelings. So, something like that?
Yes. You put it really well. Nothing I can add to that.
Well, it sounds like from what you're saying, Fabrice, that mindfulness takes practice, just like defeating our negative thoughts sometimes takes practice with the methods that we teach people in the homework. But it also, mindfulness enhances, is this what you're saying? Mindfulness enhances our ability to defeat our negative thoughts. Like you were saying that perhaps it teaches us to take a pause between the stimulation of the negative thought or an emotional an uncomfortable emotion and our reaction, which would be the belief in our negative thought. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. In fact, that pause is very important. If I recall, let me misquote Viktor Frankl. I think he wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies our ability for freedom. When you practice mindfulness, that essentially takes that space, which may be down to zero for somebody who's totally enmeshed in their emotions, but you can stretch it. I sometimes teach a very simple and quick mindfulness technique to my clients. It's called the STOP technique, S-T-O-P, where S stands for stop, T stands for take a breath, O stands for observe, and P stands for proceed. In other words, if I'm being totally upset by a particular event, instead of reacting immediately, I can just take a short pause, breathe in and breathe out, which gives me a few seconds to think, observe, where I can do the mindful action of noticing my thoughts, my emotions, and my sensations. And then having done a very quick survey of my situation, I can proceed and decide what I want to do about it, if anything. So I go from reacting to responding.
Well, it seems, Fabrice, that's a really cool method when you're talking about stop, where you stop and take a breath and observe and proceed. And it seems in the combination of mindfulness and TEAM-CBT that in that moment where we're observing, a person could incorporate TEAM-CBT techniques that they already know work for them, like be specific, or let's define the terms, the Socratic method, or identify the distortions, so that they're observing and taking that moment to defeat their negative thoughts.
I agree.
Using TEAM-CBT methods. What do you think that?
One of the problems with any methods, whether it be TEAM-CBT or any other, is that if you don't have the awareness that you're caught in a thought loop, you can't apply them. So the stop method allows you to notice that, and in the proceed part, you can decide, well, instead of responding even, I can just do one of the TEAM-CBT methods, are my favorites.
Cool.
Does meditation have anything like the central point of TEAM-CBT, of melting away the patient's resistance? I co-presented with a fellow at the recent Burlingame short therapy conference, Jeff Zeig. He and I presented on just briefly on habits and addictions. He was using hypnosis, and it struck me, he's assuming his patients want to change their habit, and he's showing them, you can do it. Here's the confidence, kind of a cheerleading kind of thing, although he's very sophisticated in the way he does it. But he doesn't approach the issue, do you want to give up this addiction? What are some good reasons for not? And I'm wondering too if there's that type of thing in mindfulness meditation. It seems like we're teaching people how to let go of their negative thoughts and feelings without addressing the issue that has given the power to TEAM-CBT of showing how the depression, the anxiety, the anger, whatever, is actually a reflection of what's most beautiful and awesome about the person, and that maybe this is something they very well might not want to let go of, and that when you present that paradox, suddenly, in most cases, not all, but nearly all cases, suddenly the person's resistance disappears, and then anything you do, I think, would be massively more effective. It seems to me it's still like a technique on the list of 50 or 100 techniques, rather than addressing the issue of motivation. I could be all wet. I often am and usually are, but that it's just sounding like another way to be helpful to people.
I tend to agree with you, although as I was explaining earlier, since it's kind of like a workout, you start finding within yourself some abilities that were absent or latent before. So
you get stronger.
So you start to see that changing how you feel in the moment is not as hard as it used to be.
Oh, yeah. We see that in TEAM, too.
That may reduce the process resistance.
Yeah, over time you get really, really good at it. Well, thank you, Fabrice. That was a fabulous introduction for us. It's advanced for you to mindfulness and meditation. Are there any other things that you want to add, or questions we should have asked you that we missed?
Well, when we're talking about the difference between mindfulness and other practices like yoga
and in self-hypnosis, relaxation training,
right,
yoga, mindfulness, or is this just all the same kind of deal, or are there differences between them? Is mindfulness better than yoga? Is yoga better than self-hypnosis? Is it just all the same type of thing, or?
So mindfulness itself is a meditation technique that originated from Buddhism, that was adapted for Western people and kind of stripped of its religious connotation. And it consists mainly of observing both our sensations and our thoughts and our emotions, and staying connected to the present moment. There's other techniques like yoga, which the way we do it here in the West is mostly physical techniques using movement and postures. Yoga is also originated from ancient traditions. The traditions of yoga also have some meditation techniques in them. In fact, people who go to yoga classes fairly frequently have a short 5-minute meditation at the end of the class, which is a way for them to link the physical exercise they did to their inner process. So there are some connections between mindfulness and other techniques. A lot of those originate from Eastern traditions. You mentioned self-hypnosis. It's also a form of guided imagery that allows us to give ourselves suggestions to feel differently or have different desires and cravings. Like you can make yourself feel like eating less or smoking less and so on. Self-hypnosis, you can see that as a form of meditation where you focus on a particular intention. So there's some connections between mindfulness meditation and those other techniques.
Areas of overlap and areas of uniqueness. That makes perfect sense. Before we close off here, and I want to thank you for a fabulous interview. I want to give a little report. Yesterday was February 10th. Now, when you folks hear this, it won't be February 11th. It'll be February when?
2019. Some people may listen to this in the future.
Yeah, but anyway, yesterday, as of our recording, was February 10th, 2019, and we had a fabulous one-day workshop on the treatment of habits and addictions that we've been promoting here on the Feeling Good podcast, and we thank you all for your support because we had almost double our last workshop. We had a tremendous, especially the online group. We were limited to 40 in the room in Palo Alto, 45, something like that. But we had 150 in all. We had all the rest were online, and it was a tremendous thing. And I want to give a plug for our upcoming May workshop. But you want to give a little report on yesterday, Rhonda?
Yes, it was a really great experience. I was really inspired by being there. David taught along with the superb teacher, Jill Levitt, who's always inspirational. And there were people in the class who had come as far away as from Cincinnati and Maine. And David and Jill taught about how to follow the TEAM-CBT structure in working with people who have unwanted habits and addictions, talking about the empathy that's needed, the outcome resistance, process resistance, methods, relapse prevention. In addition to teaching the theory behind it and the techniques, we also had an opportunity to do personal work. And in the small group that I was working with, there was somebody who was working on her unwanted habit of being late to work all the time and how that was having negative consequences for her. And following our work together, today she sent me an email saying that she got to work a full hour earlier than she normally arrived. And she felt so happy and full of gratitude for the work that we all did together. So it was really a wonderful, kind of exciting workshop.
Yeah, it's fun teaching with Jill, and we're going to do another co-teaching one on May 19th. TEAM-CBT methods for anxiety disorders, step-by-step training for therapists, and it'll be the same format, but we're going to have a lot of cool things in that workshop. We're going to show you some videos. We're going to show you how to do the 6-minute cure for severe panic disorder, the 15-minute cure for severe OCD. We're going to show you 4 different powerful practical models for teaching treatment of all anxiety disorders: the cognitive model, motivational model, the hidden emotion model, and of course the exposure model. Now it'll sell out fast for the in-person because it's the same location, so we can only have 45 for the in-person. But we'll have we might even expand it more for the online group this time. But register early because these things do tend to sell out. And thank you, all of you, for supporting our podcasts and supporting the training workshops as well. Is there anything else before we call it a day here, Fabrice?
No, I think that we've done as much coverage of the topic as we could do in a short episode. And I want to thank you for being the host today.
Thank you, Fabrice, and thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you
did
so
a great
much.
job. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this podcast under the blog page, and where you can leave your comments and questions. The website has an abundance of resources for therapists as well as non-therapists, including books, workshops, a list of online training groups around the world, and much more. Theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donsel. I am your host, Fabrice Nye, and I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.